All right, cool, Tony. Thanks for hopping on today.
Mhm.
Oh, actually, there's someone else. Oops. Cool, cool. Hey, thanks for hopping on, everyone, today. So today I want to talk about mobile home park investing and kind of the pros and cons in my experience. Since there's only two of you, I guess it can be a lot more intimate. So just please feel free to stop me here. So I was talking a little bit with Tony before I hit record. But overall, as I mentioned before, I have a 200 lot mobile home park in Selma, Alabama. I got this deal off market through a relationship with a broker that I had. And what's kind of interesting was the broker was actually on LoopNet. So I just found his number, his contact on LoopNet, and I just called him just like I was just curious about mobile home parks, right? Because I'm sure that's why you're both here. I know Tony's here for that reason. But everyone hears that, hey, you can make a lot of money from mobile home parks, right? So that's what gets everyone's interested. If you listen to Bigger Pockets, Brandon Turner, he talks about it quite a bit. So yeah, I guess before getting started, maybe let's just go around and introduce ourselves and I guess what your real estate experience is and kind of your interest in mobile home parks. I guess starting with Tony here.
So just really still new to the game, still learning, just trying to absorb information. Like I mentioned to you, mobile home parks is something that I haven't even heard from anybody yet. So I thought it'd be interesting to see, you know, see what's all about.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area.
And remind me, do you currently own any real estate, or is it just your primary residence?
Just primary. No, I'm looking to invest out of state because California is too expensive.
Yeah, got it, got it. All right, cool. Thanks, Tony. Okay, TT. Oh, that's you. Okay, Cindy. Nope, nope. Okay, it's a quiet group today. Cool. All right, Tony. Feel free to chime in anytime. But basically, what really drew me to mobile home parks was it's just the upside, right? Everyone that starts off, the progression is you do single family homes, you go to multifamily, and then you go to mobile home parks slash self storage or industrial. So that was the kind of the natural progression that I saw. And, like I said, when I got my deal, my 200 lot mobile home park in Selma, Alabama, I just reached out to a broker and it was really for me to learn, but I ended up, closing on the first deal that was presented to me. And, from my experience, mobile home parks, it's very heavy lifting. It's probably, out of all my real estate, I probably spend the most time on my mobile home park, to be honest. Like my two apartment complexes, even though I'm renovating them like extensively right now, and my single family homes, which I self manage, like those for the most part on autopilot. I really at most will just text my property managers or general contractors maybe like every Friday just for the status and the updates of those apartments. But where I spend the most of my time and what kind of keeps me up at night is my mobile home park. And, like for kind of some high level numbers, I got the mobile home park for $1.1 million, from those in the Bay Area. Like I'm from the Bay Area too. Like we can't even get a single family home for $1.1 million. Like I think $1.1 million gets you a townhouse like in the South Bay Area. So I just thought, wow, this is so cheap, right? Like I can get a 200 lot mobile home park for $1.1 million. Um, keep in mind when I got the park, it only 35 out of 200 lots were occupied, and but the sites were good to go. Like the sites, they have the utility infrastructure set up, so there's electricity, there's water, and there's sewer hookups. So it's just a matter of bringing on a home, connecting the utilities, and then adding skirting. So skirting is kind of like what you put around the mobile home to make it look nice, and you build like a little deck so people can go up to their home. So it's pretty simple, right? It sounds very easy conceptually. And, there, when I took over the park, it's about 35 homes in Selma, Alabama, which isn't the greatest area. Unfortunately, there's a lot of high crime there. So what I kind of tell myself is if this mobile home park fails, it's because I compromise location, right? Like the crime index is very high, unfortunately. Um, I have to hire a full time security guard. Um, they're there basically 5 hours a day every day in order to make sure that, no one robs or breaks into any of the mobile homes. And, when I first took over the park, like I said, I had about 35 out of 200 occupied. About 17 were park owned homes. So, park owned homes means that I own the homes and I rent them out like traditional renters. And the other 17 are tenant owned homes. So, the tenant owns the home and then they basically just pay me lot rent. So, basically, they pay me a monthly lot rent to put their home on my pad, right? So, the lot rents average around $200, $300 a month. And rents for the older homes are around like maybe 450 to 500 a month for some reference. So when I took over the park, um, basically, or when I got under contract, I basically offered 1.1 million. It was 10% down, so 100,000 down. I got it seller financed. So with mobile home parks, usually it's seller financing because traditional banks want like more occupancy. So 35 out of 200 is like nothing, right? I can't even do the math. It's like less than maybe like 17% occupancy. So most lenders, they want a decent occupancy, right? So you have to get a seller finance. So I was able to negotiate that. So I basically did 10% down, 5% interest only, 5-year term. So basically, I have 5 years to basically execute my value add plan, right? And starting to bring in homes. In mobile home lingo, it's called infilling. So you're infilling new and used homes. And from there, I was actually able to defer my interest only payments for a year. So basically, for the first year of ownership, and I owned it for about a year now, so I haven't had to pay a single payment um, until November of this year. So that's what I really like about creative financing is that you can negotiate all your terms, right? I can negotiate my down payment, I can negotiate my interest rate, I can negotiate my term and when I can pay, right? So you have a lot more control, you have a lot more flexibility, and it's nice, right? Because it gives me time to do my value add plan. So, for this one, I actually flew out to Selma, Alabama. I was there for like 3 days doing my on site due diligence. So, there I was actually on site with my off site property manager. So, what we did was we basically walked the park, right? We basically um, went through all the units. So, there's about 35 units. We walked through all 35 units. We basically, I annotated like, what repairs were needed. There are actually a lot of homes there that are vacant. So they're called vacant park owned homes. And unfortunately, when there's too many vacant park owned homes, it attracts a lot of homeless people. So they basically use it as like a free place to live. So like sometimes when you open it, you have to be kind of cautious that someone's not living in there. But basically, I went into each of the vacant homes and basically got an estimate from my contractor, like how much will it cost to fix this up, right? So basically, I had around like 30 homes, I think, that need to be fixed up. And, renovation costs ranged between 5,000 to about 15,000, depending on how much repair is needed there. So basically, I basically counted all that up and just said, okay, well, I'm going to need about $300,000 to renovate about 30 homes, right? So the average is around $10,000 a home. So that was my initial plan. And then also doing the walkthrough, obviously I kind of check out the vacant sites to see if they're ready to take on the mobile home. Are they able to take on, do they have utility connections, so like water, sewer, and electricity hookups. So basically I did a site assessment of all 200 lots, and for the most part I think the majority of them were good. Some, obviously you have to like maintain and take care of it. And then there, I actually did something unique, and like I actually went to like Section 8 to just to inquire to say, hey, like I'm thinking about buying this mobile home park. Like, what are your thoughts about partnering so that I can bring in a lot of Section 8 tenants there? And what's nice about Section 8 is it's guaranteed money, right? So how Section 8 works for those of you who don't know is, let's just say your rent's $1,000. The tenant will pay 20%, for example. So they pay 200, and then the government will pay you $800 automatically. So what's nice about that is like you're guaranteed $800 from the government on the first of every month, right? And then the tenant is more likely to pay because where else could you get rent for $200? And if they don't pay, I just notify Section 8 and they lose their Section 8 voucher so that they don't get subsidized rent anymore. So Section 8 has a stigma of like, being low income, kind of poor people are difficult to work with. But if you find the right Section 8 tenants, like they're just like everyone else, right? So you just have to do your screening process and whatnot. But basically, I reached out to Section 8 and be like, hey, like I'm looking on bringing in, 100 homes here, and I'm looking to rent them out and interested in partnering with Section 8 to, basically rent out the homes. And what's nice about Section 8 is they actually pay more in rent. So, like, I think Section 8 for some Alabama pays around, I think, 900, about 900 to $1,000 for a 3 bedroom. And I think for an apartment complex, or sorry, if you were to rent it out to a normal tenant, it would be around maybe 700, 800. So that's kind of the incentive to work with Section 8. So I reached out to them, just asked them about the park. They knew about it. It's a small town. And just said, hey, like, looking to partner, and just I just wanted to gauge the demand of renters. And what I quickly found out was they had a wait list of 100 tenants who were waiting to get housing and use their Section 8 voucher. So right at the gate, I know that like there's demand. There's definitely demand. And so that was reassuring for me, right? To know that there's 100 people who had vouchers looking to get houses, and they said that there were no 3 bedroom apartment complexes in the market in Selma. So like if I brought in a 3 bedroom 2 bath, I'd basically be the only one in that whole market, and I can basically rent it all out, right? Because a 3 bedroom can fit a family versus a 2 bedroom, it's going to be kind of tight. So that was very favorable for me. And the next visit that I did was to the police department. And why I did that was I want to get a sense of like the crime, right? So like even despite going to the police department, and just know that when you talk to the sheriff's office, the police department, they're usually very pessimistic, but they're very realistic too. And they did say that like hey, that's a high crime area. Um, I guess it's near some projects, and kind of a rougher neighborhood, so there's a lot of like gang activity. But they did say that like over the past 5 years, it did clean up a little bit. The gang members either are locked up or they're dead. That's what the cops said. And they said that they do kind of drive by the area a lot. And then kind of a pro tip that I suggest for mobile home parks is that you want to partner with the police department to make it known that like, hey, I'm Steven. I'm a new investor. I'm gonna buy this park. I'm gonna fix it up, and like I want to make sure this area is safe for the city. Like, would it be okay if I offered you like you can use one of my units, my mobile homes, as your office space? You can like relax. I'll bring you some coffee, some donuts, computer station. You can take notes there, whatever. Right? I just want the cops to be there so that it'll deter away crime, right? Because people aren't gonna mess with the park if they see, cops stationed there. So I was trying to build that partnership, but unfortunately, they said it was a liability issue. If the cops got attacked there or whatever, they wouldn't do it. But they did say that, hey, like we were willing to make more rounds in your park at nighttime because it's a public access road. Um, so yeah, I did that, and after that, I felt pretty comfortable with the park. I developed a 3-phase plan of value add. So that's what I mean by mobile parks is a lot more work. So basically, my phase one is I had about 30 homes that need to be fixed up for about $10,000 each on average, so 300,000 total. So my goal was to fix up these homes and basically rent them out to people because that's the fastest way to do it. So, when I took over the park, I basically hit the ground running. I hired a renovation crew, paid them on an hourly basis. So, kind of a pro tip, ideally, you don't want to pay workers on an hourly basis. And the reason for that is there's no motivation, right? Like, we're all hourly workers here. Like, regardless if I work 4 hours or 8 hours in a day, I get paid the same, right? Versus if you get paid by the job, you're going to work a little harder because you know that if you finish a job sooner, then you can take on the next job. So that was kind of one mistake that I made. With my apartments that I own, I pay by the job. I never paid by the hour, but I thought I was able to save some money. And it did work for a little bit for the smaller renovations, but when I got to the larger renovations, like the workers started slacking off like significantly. And, I had to basically bring in a new crew. But, so basically I started renovations about a year ago, during the heart of COVID. There were labor shortages, there were supply shortages, and that caused all the delays for me, right? Like every delay you can think of, I experienced. And so I fixed up around, about maybe 20 homes to this point. And then after I fixed them up, I immediately rented them out. Some of the current tenants that weren't paying, I basically had to evict them. A lot of tenants weren't paying for like a year plus. So when I came in, I had to basically get a judge involved and basically start evicting people. Alabama, it's a little more landlord friendly compared to California. Not as landlord friendly as Oklahoma, but just basically started evicting people and saying, hey, like you're gonna have to pay your rent starting now. Like I'll forgive all the rent that you owe the previous owner, but if you start paying now, it's okay. But if you don't, I'm gonna start the eviction process. So basically they don't pay by the 15th of the month, we issue eviction notice for that. So that's basically phase one is to basically start renovating the homes that are there and then rent them out. And then phase two is trying to bring in used homes, right? So I basically want to buy used homes. So typically used homes are around maybe $8,000 to $10,000, depending on the condition. You got to transport it to your park, which costs another like $5,000, and then you got to renovate it, which could be another $5,000 to $10,000, right? So that's about $25,000 to $30,000 all in. So because of that, like I wanted to fix the homes I had there already because they're already like on the lot, they're already there. I just got to fix them up so it's faster. But once I'm done fixing up all the homes, I wanted to bring in some used homes to basically fix up and then rent, right? But the issue I was having was because of all the supply chain issues with the new homes, everyone was buying the used homes. So it just got very competitive, very difficult to buy those used homes for my park. So basically, I kind of had to squash phase two of trying to bring in used homes. And then I moved on to phase three. So phase three is buying new homes. So what's kind of crazy about new homes is you can work with manufacturers like Clayton Homes, that's owned by Warren Buffett. If you guys don't know, they're one of the largest mobile home manufacturers in the nation, and Legacy Homes, which is another a big one. So between Clayton and Legacy Homes, like literally when I called them like a year ago, they're like, "Oh, we're so backlogged due to supply chain issues that it's going to take you a year from when you place an order to get your home delivered to your park." And the home prices surged significantly. Like they were around $40,000, like 2 years ago, and they were selling for like $60,000. Due to supply and demand. So, because of that, I was basically like, okay, I cannot initiate my phase three. So I basically can't do phase two. I can't do phase three. And phase one of renovations is slowing down. So basically, I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to really focus on phase one, just really do renovations, kind of push through this process. And in the past 2 months, the landscape changed significantly. So obviously when, people are fearful of the recession and the supply chain issues resolved, now I can basically order a brand new 3 bedroom, 2 bath, single wide home for $35,000. Get it installed, get it 100% financing, so I don't have to pay for $35,000. That $35,000 loan is leveraged. The setup cost, which is $5,000, is leveraged, and I can basically bring this home with $0 out of pocket, and I can easily rent that home out for probably around $800 a month, right? So like where else, like in apartment complexes, you can't just bring in another unit for like $35,000 and rent it out, right? It's going to cost a lot more money to build a 35 unit versus a mobile home. Like for $35,000, let's just call it $40,000 all in with installation. I can basically bring in a home. You know, the interest rates are higher for mobile homes. So like for reference, like it's usually 8% interest, 20-year amortization, and zero down because it's a riskier asset, right? Like mobile homes, they're not as sturdy compared to your stick built homes, so they don't last as long, right? So that's why I kind of call it like it's almost like a hard money loan, right? It's almost like a hard money loan to get a mobile home, but I can basically bring in these homes two per month. Right now, I placed an order for two. It's actually going to be delivered October 24th. And like I said, I just want to bring into test the process out because when you infill a brand new home, it's a lot of steps. So let me describe it to you from start to finish. So literally, the manufacturer makes it. They're going to deliver it to your mobile home park. From there, you have to hire an installer who's licensed, who will pick up that home from your park and move it into the lot and set it down and anchor it. And then from there, somebody has to connect the water, the sewer, and electricity. And then after that, you got to skirt the home, build a deck, and now it's ready to go. So all those steps I described are like all those points is where you can fail, right? So usually where it mostly fails is when they drop off the home and getting the installer to come. So if your installer flakes on you or your installer doesn't show up, you basically have homes just sitting there, like ducks in the middle of the road, right? So because of that, it's a lot more work, a lot more stress, a lot more coordination involved. But if you can master that process, and I'm testing of two, and why I'm doing two is because I just want to get the homes there, make it known that I have new homes, take a lot of pictures and videos, advertise those homes, use it as like a model home, get it rented out, and then after that, I want to get a wait list of people. So I know that. Let's just say I have a wait list of 20 renters who are qualified, they're willing to pay. Then at that point, I would basically know. Let's just say I have 5 people on my wait list who are, or 15 people on my wait list who are serious. What I would do is I would bring in 5 homes in November. And basically, once I bring in 5 homes, I'm going to go through my list of 15. And hopefully, 5 out of 15 are actually serious and rent those out, right? Or I can just take a deposit or a hold to reserve those homes. So they have skin in the game, right? So let's just say I have 5 homes. I'm like, hey, if you want to rent this home, you can rent it on November 24th, whatever, but you're going to give me a little hold to make sure you're serious. And if you change your mind, it's non refundable. So now they have skin in the game, right? So it's some type of system like that. And then basically, once you have that, you just can bring as many homes as you want. Like at this point, I can order, whatever, 5, even 10 homes a month, and they come in about a week at this point if I want to. The limiting step is obviously having my installer, my property manager install it. So yeah, so that's just kind of what I'm going through right now. But overall, kind of at a high level, I know this might be pretty advanced, um, for most people, but if you were kind of compare it from apartments to mobile home parks, apartments is a lot more simpler. I'll be honest, because like apartments, all I do is I renovate the unit, right? Like I don't have to like coordinate delivering a home and all that stuff. As long as you can renovate your apartment unit, new flooring, a new kitchen, new bathroom, paint. I mean, that's all it is, right? For an apartment, it's pretty easy, right? Like I'm renovating, whatever, 6 units a month for my 26 unit apartment complex. But with mobile homes, like it's a lot more coordination in bringing those new homes in, right? There's a lot more pieces involved, a lot more points of failure. And then with apartments, it's a little bit. How to describe it? It's just a lot more. It's more durable, right? Like it's a stick built building. These apartments have been around forever. Versus a mobile home, I mean, they probably have a lifespan of about maybe 20 to 30 years, depending on like how well you upkeep it. And they need constant repair. And to repair a mobile home versus an apartment is different, right? You need to use different materials. Things are sized differently. So it's just like it's just harder to buy certain things. Like you need to buy a specific window, right? Like only some places sell that specific window. But you can't just go to Home Depot and buy a window for a mobile home park or for a mobile home. So that's one thing, and then the other thing too is, it's definitely more work, right? Like I said, I probably spend the most amount of time on my mobile homes. I barely think about my apartments compared to my mobile home park. And I have an offsite manager who manages my on-site manager, who then manages my renovation team. So I basically manage my offsite, who manages my onsite, who manages the renovation team. So there's a lot of people involved. So by the time I tell my offsite manager something, by the time it gets to the renovation team, it could be like a week or two, right? So you just have a lot more delays. Versus for apartments, I just tell my property manager or contractor, hey, like do this, and it's done. It's direct communication, right? So that's another challenge there, and um, but obviously the pros is, I mean, it can be a cash cow, right? Like imagine for every mobile home that I bring in with 0% down or zero money out of pocket, I make $200, right? Net profit after, debt, management, maintenance, all that stuff. I make $200 net, and I have 150 homes to infill, right? So I mean, you can kind of do the math there. It starts to scale significantly in terms of the cash flow, right? So that's what's really powerful about it. And what makes it even more powerful is ultimately I want to bring people in as renters, but my pitch is that you have the option to buy your home, and I want them to buy the home because let's just say they rent from me for like 6 to 12 months. They're a great renter. I'll basically connect them with my lender, who's 21st Mortgage or Vanderbilt. They're the two biggest ones in mobile homes, and get them qualified, right? Or help them get qualified. And if they qualify, basically they will pay me, and I'll use that money to pay off my line of credit that I have. And at that moment, they just pay me $300 in lot rent. And actually, it's a win-win because they own the home, they deal with all the maintenance, but now I'm getting $300 in lot rent, which actually is all net, mostly net profit, because now I don't have to deal with maintenance, right? All I do is like enforce the rules that, like, hey, make sure you mow your lawn and just behave by the park rules. So actually, by getting lot rent, it's actually better in two ways. Number one, they're a homeowner, so they have skin in the game. Number two, you make more money and it's more passive. It's easier to manage versus like renting out the mobile home. So that's the ultimate goal, is that like I want to sell these homes, and you can actually make a profit from selling the home. So like let's just say the new home is 35,000, it's 5,000 to set it up. Usually you do about 10% markup, so I can sell these for about 45,000. So what I do with that profit is I profit $5,000. I'll keep 2,500 of profit, and I'll give my property manager who sold the home the other, roughly around 1,000 to 1,500 of commission for selling that home. So everyone's interest is aligned, right? If you sell the home, you will get 1,000 to $1,500 per home, right? And that can be pretty significant if you're selling like 3 4 homes a month. That's like $3 4 thousand a month. And for reference, I'm paying my on-site manager about 2,600 a month, right? So it's almost doubling your income by selling it a month. So there's definitely incentives involved, and I want him to sell, right? And because it makes it easier for me, and I make more cash flow, and then he gets money. So it's a win-win all around, right? So once you can kind of master that infill process, that's how you scale, and that's how it becomes amazing, right? So basically projections. If I can get my park to about 100 or 200 lots, I think to be worth around 3 to 4 million. So keep in mind, I bought for 1.1 million. Probably put in about $300,000. So let's just call it 1.5 all in. So I can basically double the value of what I purchased it at. If I fill up half of the mobile home, if I fill up 200, you're talking about 6 to 8 million at this point, right? So let's just say it's worth 8 million. You do 60% cash out refi, loan to value. I mean, you're pulling out a couple. I can't do the math, but let's just call it about 5 million tax free. Pay off my $1 million seller credit note, and I pocket $4 million, like tax free. And if I can execute this plan in like 5 to 7 years, I mean, you just made $1 million, 4 millions over the next 5 to 7 years, and then you can use that to buy another mobile home park, right? So That's the upside. But my worst case scenario is, let's just say I cannot rent out these new homes, I can't sell homes, whatever, and I were to just unload it, I'd probably lose around $300,000. So my calculated risk is I can lose $300,000 worst case, or make a couple $1 million is my best case scenario. So it's definitely a calculated risk versus my apartment complexes. Like I know that like I'm gonna make money in those deals. Like I'm not doubting. I know 100% I'm gonna make money in my apartment complexes. Mobile home, I'm a little bit. Um, Depends on my day. Some days I have bad days. I'm pessimistic. Today I'm a little more optimistic. But mobile homes, everything's happened in my park. I've Yesterday one mobile home lit on fire, so the fire department was there. I had some break-ins at one point. I had someone steal my dumpster and rob the gas station that was down the street. Unfortunately, I had a homicide in the park, not related to any of the tenants, but it was just a homicide that happened at the park. So I basically seen everything that happened, and that's what I mean by ideally you don't want to compromise location, right? So if this park fails, it's purely because I chose a bad location. So that's why I emphasize like don't buy in high crime areas. Obviously the crime decreased significantly since I hired a full time security guard. But now that's an additional expense I have to pay, right? It's about $1,800 a month for a security guard. So now there's an additional expense that I have to take care of while doing my value add strategy. So overall, I know that was a lot to go over. Probably went over everyone's head here, but that was just kind of my experience about the mobile home park. Obviously this is recorded, so just listen to it a couple of times. And if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'm gonna basically start posting a lot of videos, just talking more about mobile home parks. I was a little bit more focused on apartment complexes there because it ties in more of my course. But I'm gonna start releasing some videos about mobile home parks because I know a lot of people eventually progress to mobile home parks after apartment complexes. So that's kind of a high level overview. I guess any questions from anybody about anything?
So you got the deal in Selma. Was there anything attractive or foreseeing in the city of Selma that could make the location better? The deal was great. Location, like you mentioned, is key. Was there anything in the pipes or down the road that would make Selma a more attractive location?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was living there, like I just could drive around, and there were some like shopping centers that were dead, but like so kind of a hack that I share is like they built a new super Walmart there. So Walmart did the research already, right? Like Walmart wouldn't invest a super Walmart in a city that they don't believe in or they don't think it's up and coming, right? So the fact that I saw a super Walmart there, or you can Google it, right? That's a pretty good indicator. And just driving around there, like you just see like a lot of new like retail stores, right? They had like a lot of it's like equivalent of Dave's Hot Chicken or like hot chicken sandwich stores were popping up here and there. Um, and I think just in general, Alabama, so like Birmingham is booming, so that trickles down to Montgomery, which is booming, and then it trickles down to Selma. But yeah, what really either gave me blinders or gave me hope was like just talking to the local community there. I just talked because I went to eat there. I was there for 3 days, and I just said, hey, like tell me about Hidden Acres Mobile Home Park, right? And then they would say, like 7 years ago, this was a really good park. It was very clean. It was like mostly full, but like because of all the crime activity, like people started leaving, and it went downhill after and the owner died. So I think what happened was the owner was managing it very well, and maybe there wasn't as much crime or it was more regulated. Then maybe the past 5 years, the owner died, the kid took over, and he knew how to manage a mobile home park. So like it just kind of fell apart. So that's why I said you need a good operator. So I thought part of it was poor operations, but kind of like what I kind of assessed with the crime was that because it was so empty. So it's 55 acres. Right? I own 55 acres in Selma, Alabama, and like if there's just empty, there's only 35 homes occupied, a lot of vacant homes, you're just going to attract a lot of bad people, right? Like people are like, oh, it's empty. I can do drug deals here. I can do gang activity there. I can loiter here. But like if the park is like 100 to 200 full, like that's like a little city within itself. And like you kind of have the residents being your security, right? Like, you know, you can eventually, like when we're more full, we can have a local neighborhood watch, and basically they'll walk around at night and be the local security, right? Like we want to create a community and they want to keep it safe. So that's kind of my vision. As it gets more full and as we bring in these new homes, it's going to start attracting, you know, better tenants, homeowners. Once it gets more full, it's going to kind of self-regulate itself because like they're very proud, like, hey, I live in a new home, right? So I was kind of hopeful of that. um, but we'll see if that can, if my optimism is met, or does the location just, you can't do anything about the location, right? So that was my initial point, which made me kind of close on the property. Um, so kind of hope that answers your question there. But yeah, there was a lot of like new retail development in Selma, which attracted me to it, and it's an affordable housing market, right? Like, you know, you have Section 8 tenants there, and you know the median price of a home in Selma is about 120K, and I'm selling you a mobile home for 45K. It's about one third the price, right? So a lot of these renters, they're paying $800 a month for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but for $800 a month, you can own a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, single wide, brand new. So I want to take those renters who are renting $800 plus and convert them over to homeowners in my park, and they can get the American dream of homeownership. So that's my goal. That was my vision. So that's what drew me towards the deal. But I guess I'll know in the next year if I'm successful or not.
Yeah, big risk, big return.
Yeah, it's definitely calculated, and I kind of joke that like if I failed, it's just gonna be great content for me. Either way, right? Like just the stuff I've seen in the past year, like what the heck, right? Someone stole my dumpster and robbed the gas station with it. Like what? I've never experienced that. Um, so yeah. Any other questions about anything? It doesn't have to be mobile home parks. No, nothing. Okay, quiet crowd today. All right, cool. If no other questions, then thank you so much for hopping on today's call um, about mobile home parks. If you have any questions about anything, just feel free to reach out to me via email. And once again, if you can check out my YouTube channel, you know, subscribe. I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday. So typically, this records upload today, and then a video of me talking about various topics is upload on Saturday. So please check those videos out and support. And if nothing else, thanks for hopping on, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.